week 6, further practice with editing, more kind of experience within Premiere Pro, working on like some B-roll and kind of giving shots their breathing space, things like that. So for that, I recorded another interview with a friend of mine, Ross, and we did like a trip to Quayside Market, and we were originally just gonna have like a very generic kind of, what do you like about the market? What's your favorite stall? If you had a stall, what would that like? That very kind of, I don't know, very just kind of like basic questions. It was more just, the focus was on just getting footage just to practice with, but it was like, it kind of took on its own thing. It became like a very short interview just about social anxiety, because I thought the way I had technical limitations in that filming at the market is incredibly difficult, because obviously there's no space for a tripod, so you have to go handheld, but kind of occupying such a busy space with a handheld camera has its risks, and it's very difficult to keep the camera steady. But I think that almost kind of, since we were doing it on the topic of social anxiety, it kind of fed into that, just to kind of have a small camera kind of eye level with so many people passing by and you're kind of knocked around. But the only problem with it is obviously the sound in the B-roll is terrible, because we're just using the internal mic, because I couldn't move around with like the shotgun attached or anything like that. And visually going through the crowd is interesting. Scenery is not, like, as a landscape it's not ideal, just because the sky was very grey, therefore the water reflected is very grey. It all looks quite dreary and washed out, which I don't even think is down to the camera. I think that's just how it looks. I suppose you could help that with some colour treatment, but again, even like the drab colours might actually feed into the sense of anxiety. I don't know. But like further, yeah, we took that footage and I just kind of compiled the best parts of the interview we had, because I wanted to trim the fat of that and take out anything too personal. But at the same time, create something that was still interesting enough to watch, and we'd have kind of the B-roll of me moving through the market or following Ross from behind, like as they were walking through with their bags, or like shopping or anything like that. So it creates that kind of sense of, because Quayside Market is such like a linear, it's essentially a big corridor, it's a funnel of people. I kind of wanted a sense of progression of moving through that, and kind of it ends with like like the food court area, and you've got like sweeping views of like the quayside as a whole, all the markets lined up next to each other, the Sage and the Baltic and the Millennium Bridge. So I think I give a good impression of the space. Filming the interview itself went much better. Ross was clearly quite nervous, but I think it did go really well. Lighting was way more effective, because I've made sure to adjust for just how well the 4K camcorder picks up light. Not so many technical issues to speak of. Like I say, it was just filming on the quayside is difficult, but again, that could probably be mitigated as I practice with handheld, and if I just choose my shot composition more carefully. So in future I would probably take things at a distance, and I would move more slowly, because I think I was just quite panicked since I hadn't done much filming in public before, but I wanted to challenge myself with it, because I know that if I didn't force myself, I would just pick easy locations. I would just stick to flats or like inside somebody's house. So I wanted to kind of branch out and create something that I knew I wouldn't be entirely happy with, but at least I challenged myself with it. And I think, again, it'll just come with practice, just kind of getting used to those environments. And obviously, in future, if I was to do somewhere public, it probably would be less of a kind of corridor filled with people, because that's what the market is effectively. So I just choose places, my places of filming more carefully, to get like kind of better aid the shot composition. Further practice with handheld, and editing wise, it went fine. I mean, I think I got a better selection of B-roll this time round, so I think it flowed much more effectively than the first interview I got, and it just looked better overall. It was and I think it creates an interesting contrast how like bright and enclosed the interview space was, whereas then you go to this very kind of grey, people filled, like it creates an interesting kind of dichotomy that feeds into like the theme of the interview with the anxiety and the kind of overwhelming nature of so many people in a small space. But I think that's all I've got to say on it. Just got to practice more. Yeah.